All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Interesting conversation with James Larson, who covers spring football, discussing the exit of the Stallions. It's unfortunate. We hate it. We don't like it. But it's where we are right now. Mike Rapoli tweeting that he's committed to bringing the Stallions back. I don't know if a lot of fans buy that, believe that, but no more Birmingham Stallions here. And be interested to see where they go as well. Back to some of the things we discussed with Indiana. We'll get to Stephen Godfrey here in just a moment. Mike Dunphy tweeting in, called it Big 2, Little 8 for decades for a reason. What Indiana football did is a miracle. Never thought it would happen in my lifetime. So, no, it has not gotten its due yet. If you love college football, you love that it happened no matter who you pull for. Pete Moss tweeting in, speaking for most Bama fans, we may not like getting our tails whipped, but we do tip our hats to Cam's, Burrows, Indiana's, etc. We respect excellence on the field. Until further notice, Sig can say anything he wants. Earned. We also have memories like elephants. Yeah, I think most people would agree with that. The references to other times for Alabama fans would mean that those memories are probably pretty sharp for a lot of them. Stephen Godfrey joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline at 38 Godfrey. You can follow him there. Find his work at Yahoo Sports. We were talking Indiana in the first segment of the show today. Listening to Signetti at Big Ten Media Day yesterday got me thinking, Stephen, we have not given this team its due credit for what they did a season ago. Do you view that the same way?
I mean, I did.
Like collectively as college football observers, be it media, fans, everyone, we don't talk about this team like we do 2019 LSU, like we do 2020 Bama, like we do 2001 Miami. Like they're not in that same realm, and I kind of think they should be.
I leave that to legitimate ball knowers, and I'm one of the few people in the media who's very comfortable saying, "Look, I don't know what I don't know." When you start comparing great and greats, that's when I do think, like, I'm not trying to be Ryan Clark or anything. That's like I am a writer and a journalist, and I would leave that up to coaches and players. But I think it's pretty easy to identify dominance, and I think they humbled a lot of programs in such a complete and total way last year that I was a little shocked that some of the more critical corners of America in terms of the college football map didn't come around on them. I mean, what they did to Alabama alone, I think should have earned some kind of like referendum from SEC country, and I don't think that happened. All they did was whine about strength of schedule. They're still whining about it.
Stephen Godfrey joining us on the Higginbotham hotline. Protect College Sports Act seems like it may actually be dead now. Deadlines,
thank God.
Fake, false deadlines were thrown around. Where is this?
Yeah. Well, luckily you have an expert coming on at 9:30, according to the graphic I got this morning. And so my Yahoo College Football Inquirer, subscribe everywhere. My co-host Ross Dellinger has covered every minute development in this thing. So he's going to be your expert. Cole, I don't know if you can relate, but I'm definitely the one who shows up late to class and copies someone else's paper. But this has been a complete exercise in nothing. It's kind of funny. Like, I'll let me drop the bit for a second. Like, we've all a lot of us have just laughed at this the entire time. Like, Andy Staples, our other co-host, he's kind of in my camp of like, this is a giant exercise in nothing, right? This is not how you develop and regulate business in America. Okay. But we've decided we're going to throw our hands up and say, we can't manage ourselves in college sports. So we're going to have the government do it. And now you're seeing the government fall apart because they did it backwards. I mean, I don't know how much you want to talk about, but it's been a complete sideshow, a distraction, a giant nothing. It's going to die anyway. But Ross can kind of walk you through those, very specific details when he comes on. I've made fun of it since the jump. If you are just a regular, good old American college football fan and you're listening and you're thinking, should I be worried about this? It's a binary question, and the answer is no as of right now. In fact, I think it should be dead in 30 days.
So what do you view as next? Because we heard not only Greg Sankey reference again the SEC going out under their own umbrella, but also Tony Petitti then following that up, referencing maybe some of the advantages of going out under their umbrella. When you hear them discuss self-governance, what does that mean to you?
It means they're bluffing. Greg Sankey specifically, no. I'm highly critical of Sankey because I think he's adopted a kind of born on third mentality of his leadership, and I think that the SEC he represents was largely built by Mike's Live. And I'm highly critical of the leadership in Birmingham. I think the SEC right now is paper tigers in many regards. But I'm going to tell you one thing about Greg Sankey. He knows what he's talking about here. He has a compliance background. And Cole, you and I are old enough to remember back in the day when the SEC actually had its own investigative unit. That was a real thing in like the mid 90s. So let's walk this out for a second, okay? Because you and I both know where I'm headed. Like, these schools and these coaches rat on each other all the time, but they don't rat on each other to the league office. What do? They call the enforcement agents, right? So without naming names or giving anybody some fun, famous stories and making myself the main character today, let's just say a hypothetical world. I'm going to take two schools. Let's say South Carolina wants to turn in Texas A&M. So they go to the NCAA enforcement office to do that. They complain about whatever it might be. If you are in self-governance, that means that the Southeastern Conference has to basically work like a daycare. They've got to suss out every single argument and fight and complaint amongst their membership to other membership. And that is a recipe for disaster. Sankey knows this. Petiti knows this. They need a straw man. That's what the NCAA always has been. They all those schools go and vote. I don't know if people know that. Like, they go to the NCAA convention, they vote on these dumb rules. And then they turn around when they get in trouble and they go, oh, the NCAA is corrupt. They're oppressing us, because they need a straw man. They need somebody to blame. It's always been like that. And it's been really successful for the conferences. But the moment you pull away from the NCAA, which, by the way, I don't think the NCAA should exist in 5 years. We need some sort of new body of governance. But the idea that the SEC is going to walk away and say, we're going to have our own playoff, we're going to have our own national champion, we're going to schedule just ourselves, we are just going to be a completely self-contained unit, is a recipe for disaster. And Sankey knows that. But they have to hold this bluff right now, I think, one, in order to kill this bill, which the SEC and the Big Ten never wanted ever, and then two, to hopefully advance some things towards a normal resolution, which is what's going on in Stanford right now with the players organizing. It's going to have to be a collective bargaining shaped situation for this to be successful.
Who do you trust to lead that, honestly? The main reason I've said that
on the player side,
because the main reason I've said that collective bargaining for the players is going to be next to impossible is, one, the fraudulent nature of the people who are calling themselves, presidents of players clubs now, whatever they want to call themselves,
right,
players unions, and then two, the constant rollover of rosters. I mean, the lack of stability of players in college football, it's ever changing. Who are you going to go to even try and balance it out and find the guidelines that are going to be sustainable moving forward that's currently involved in it by the time you agree to something?
So money finds authority in America, okay? America's not a country, it's a business, and money finds authority. The more money that goes into paying personnel in college football, which increases every year. I just finished a podcast the other day where I took $20 million, which is what Ohio State paid for the national championship 2 years ago. And I had on an expert, Parker Fleming, and he showed me how that would not even buy you NC State's roster. So if we know that the money keeps going up, what everybody said is, why would the players want to organize? Why would they want to bargain? Here's why. There are way, way more rank and file college football players than there are Arch Mannings or Julian Sayans or Darian Mensis changing teams every year for $6 million. And what we're seeing are players losing roster spots, getting pushed off of rosters, having to change their school 2 and 3 times. The overwhelming majority of players are also ready to create some sort of stipulations and guidelines so they as well can get a little relief from the chaos. So to answer your question, there's plenty of people out there that can represent a moneyed interest, right? I mean, you look at the amount of corporate executives who have come into college sports at the AD level or the conference commissioner level. I don't think there'll be a problem finding someone. As far as the turnover goes, I don't really think that's as big a problem. It can't be a one. I think what you're getting at, Cole, is that it can't be a 1-to-1 with the NFLPA or any players union in one of the big four in America. It's going to have to be a little bit different, but it's possible, and it's the only way. It's the only way in America we have devised a system where we can do this, and then ownership and labor can exist. And even then, it's really imperfect because what's about to happen to baseball is terrible. But if we continue to do this stuff, this stupid Ted Cruz, Cody Campbell stuff, we're just going to see 10 more years of lawsuits, Okay. I don't know about you, dude, but I'm tired of, okay, Joey Aguilar's going to court, Charles Bediako's going to court, Trinidad Chamberlain's going to court. Do we want this every offseason?
No. But is there a way
none of us do.
But is there a way to offset the legal action being taken against college sports without help from Congress? Is that feasible?
Sure. I mean, think of all the enterprises in America that operate and regulate themselves without the interference of the United States government. I mean, we got to call this what it is. It's one, it's hilarious, and two, we have a federal government-led initiative to restrain economic growth in a business led by Republicans, small government, pro-capitalist Republicans who are trying to basically strain out the amount of money that can come into a sport. This is kind of a first of its kind situation. I don't know who needs to hear this. And God forbid I say this out loud, but I agree with Tommy Tuberville on something. This isn't going to work. It's going to get overturned. It might work for 2 years, and then it's going to get challenged in every court in America. I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is not the path forward. Hey, Cody Campbell getting mad just because he's rich and paying Ted Cruz to introduce a bill is not how the system's going to work, because Texas Tech wants to be a member of the SEC. Because that's really, at the end of the day, what we're talking about. Texas Tech, and I'm not trying to create them as a villain. I get it. I understand their situation. But they are pushing so hard for one of two things, Cole. Either let us in or don't keep us out, which is kind of the same thing, right?
Essentially.
So it's either, yep. But it kind of is and it kind of isn't. What they're afraid of is, if I can't get into the Big Ten or I can't get into the SEC or what, then don't y'all go and form a thing without us. That's the problem. That's where all this started. And look, they're not the nicest of characters here, but I also understand where they're coming from. And the Democrat that's co-sponsoring the bill from Washington, the only reason that she's doing this, Maria Cantwell, she's doing this because she saw what happened to Washington State. But the saddest thing in the world, I can tell you, I am pro Group of Six. I am pro FCS. I grew up on that football. I think those fan bases are awesome. Okay, shout out to UAB. I'm in Troy and South Al and all those schools. I love those. Cole, you and I have talked about those schools a ton, right?
Yep.
What happened to Washington State was unavoidable, unfortunately, because of the trajectory that we're going in America. It just is. I'm sorry. I know it hurts, but we're all pro-capitalist apparently, and this is what's going to happen. I mean, y'all, $17 million for one jersey patch at Ohio State for one team, right? That's more than what Monster paid for the Big 12 patch for every school. We are not the same, and this is going to have to sort itself out in some way, shape, or form.
It's interesting to think about. Now let's turn back the clock and go back to our NCAA that we remember growing up, when they're trying to suspend Aaron Carter for 2 games for taking a flight to go do NFL training or go seek out, try and improve his status for the NFL draft. I said on the show 2 days ago, there's no way he gets 2 games for this, and he actually serves the suspension. I don't know the exact how and whys of this going away. Maybe it's just Danny White saying he's playing. We don't care. I don't know. But where are you on the NCAA?
I wish you were right, bud. It's not going to happen. He's going to have to serve that suspension. This is the dumbest thing that I've seen in a while. So does your confidence come from the precedent set by schools just saying we're not going to comply with this?
Partially.
Okay.
And also Danny White being a little bit more aggressive with no.
Oh, he's a gangster. Yeah, he's a gangster for sure. I say that with admiration. I have a thing with certain ADs are gangsters and certain ADs are pushovers, and Danny White suffers no fools. So, I mean, look at the stability he's brought to that program, for one. Think about how unstable Tennessee was before that new leadership group came in. This is, we picked this apart for like 25 minutes on the Yahoo show the other day, and Andy Staples and I were just kind of jaws on the floor. Because at this point, if you're the NCAA, you're also engaged in a PR campaign, a little bit of optics. to try to justify, shout out to Andy Kennedy if he's listening. I have used an Andy Kennedy phrase for like 20 years in my career because I heard him yell at one time at a basketball game, justify your existence. So if the NCAA, Cole, is trying to justify their existence, right? Think about all the things that have happened. The Alston case, they go to the Supreme Court, they get blown out. That was their Rose Bowl against Indiana, right? They just get completely wiped out. So we're at a precipice of changing everything in college sports. The NCAA could try to adapt and help become a clearinghouse, help streamline that ridiculous phone book size regulation. But instead, what they're going to do is die on the hill with all these tiny little ticky-tack rules. Cole, we're talking about $430 flight. That was it. $430. For a guy, I might add, in the year of our Lord 2026, who was already making very much a high tax bracket livable wage because of NIL. This is beyond asinine. So aside from the stupid rule in the books, if you're the NCAA, you have to be cognizant of your optics. You have to understand how bad this is going. This is only going to encourage people to either strike down the majority of the NCAA structure or leave entirely and reform a governing body.
The problem with that is, in our day, this was a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
I mean, think about
Boston,
10, 12, 15 years ago, this was happening 3 or 4 times a week. This was kids hitting the transfer portal in today's day and age of, this guy this guy got an extra jersey, or this guy's parents got tickets on the road, or this guy sold his Peach Bowl jersey. I mean, it's just like over and over and over. And for them to try and flex on this, I totally understand what you're saying about they have no opportunity to show their strength nowadays. I get that, and I agree with that. But, man, this ain't the one, in my opinion. Like, this is – and especially since he's already paid it back. Because did it not used to be make him pay it back, serve a very light sentence somehow, some way, and then you're good to go? I mean, outside of the A.J. Green thing, I think that was the one where they wouldn't allow him to, like, pay that back, and then, things would sort of go away. But –
And again, we're talking about somebody who could easily pay that, right? Cole, when you were playing, you had to figure out, am I allowed to eat this meal? That's not a joke. I think people who are young don't understand what we're talking about. Go look up Pastagate. That's a real thing where some Oklahoma players ate too much pasta at a school. This is a real thing I'm talking about.
I know.
Like, Cole's laughing. A bunch of linemen went in and saw some free pasta, as linemen are wont to do, and they got in trouble for it. I think one of them had to pay. They had to determine the cost of the uncooked pasta he ate, and he had to pay like $2.79 or something. It's amazing. So we had a theory, Andy Staples and I'm curious, like especially in Birmingham and Alabama, if people would receive our idea. So, the criticism on Chambliss and Bediako was that they were trying it in state court where they were going to receive a very friendly public embrace, right? The judge went to the school, everybody there went to the school. This one is so stupid that if hypothetically Tennessee had to try this case in Tuscaloosa or Athens or Baton Rouge, I think that a judge who might hate Tennessee's guts would still rule in favor of Tennessee here, because I think where we are collectively as a fan base and media and everybody involved in college sports is, can we please be done with this absolute ridiculousness? I honestly think that no matter where you tried this case, the judge, or if it went to a jury trial, would just say, get this out of here. This is absolutely stupid. I mean, the good news is that kid's going to miss, they have a scrub, and then I think it's Georgia Tech, and it's a very different Georgia Tech program than the last 2 years. They don't have Buster Faulkner. They don't have Haynes King. I don't think Tennessee's going to suffer a ton for this. And if anything else, maybe you can consider it load management, because they're, in their eyes, well, okay, that's 10 games plus maybe postseason.
I got one more question for you that's a little bit of a left turn here. We had a listener to the show the other day, and I've actually thought about this in certain points in time, but I've never thought to ask it, and I'm thinking you may be the one that can answer it best than anyone else. And he tweeted into the show and he asked us, why do we never hear about kids not being academically eligible coming out of high school anymore? And when was the last time you ever remember hearing that? And I did give it a little bit of credence to say, I think that the administrators, both through high school and college, are a lot more intelligent now. There's a lot less wasted classes.
Yeah.
There's a lot more understood of where you need to be and how you need to get there. But, Stephen, I have not heard of a kid in maybe 5 years have to go to junior college or not be eligible, or somebody who signed with a school that's like, oh, he's not in. Because when you were thinking about how dumb it was when we were in college, I thought about multiple teammates that were off to the side in practice when we started two-a-days. They couldn't practice because they had a class that didn't go through the NCAA clearinghouse. There's a throwback term for you that folks don't know what it is today.
Hey, man, you don't have to tell me. I'm a product of Mississippi higher education, okay? You know how many times in Mississippi, with the amount of JUCOs and those two SEC schools, that the entire program and fan base and coaching staff would be sweating out whether a kid could get like a 14 or a 15 on an ACT. Remember those days? Remember when they would take the ACT like 11 times?
100. I took it more than once. Thankfully, had the minimum requirement.
High,
so, 18 was way up there.
You scored high.
18 was my highest.
No, but I do not believe that. You scored an 18 on the
100%. I think it was less the first time.
No. You are an intelligent human being.
Not a test taker.
No.
Not a test taker.
All right. Okay. I find that shocking, sir.
But also remember, too, like you bring up Mississippi, like I remember seeing guys go to Southern Miss, go to UAB, go to Memphis because they were Prop 48 kids and they could get in.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, we don't hear any of this stuff anymore. Are we just smarter or do we just not care?
It's definitely that. No, when you first posed it, it was the former, not the latter, meaning that if you are, it's twofold. If you're targeted by Power 2 / Power 4 institutions, one, evaluation starts earlier, right? Kids are going to camp at
very fair.
14, 15 now, right? So there's a better apparatus in most communities to float that kid up faster. And I'm not going to pass judgment one way or the other on the academic rigor of certain places. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just saying that if anything, I guess what I'm trying to convey to the audience is that's an unforced error on the part of both the player and the school that wants to sign him, and they do a better job in advance of preventing that problem from happening, especially on the testing side. And then I also think that keep in mind, too, like, what is the size of the staff at Auburn right now? Like, the whole staff, football, analysts. Like, we have more people at these schools identifying, oh, man, okay, this kid's a sophomore. We really like him. He camps with us. We want to stay on him. This is where it's twofold. We're gonna give him a very clear roadmap on eligibility, and then usually at power high schools, and you see this a lot in the suburban Atlanta area because those schools have really blossomed the last 15 years with football talent. They've got people on staff at those schools also saying, hey, man, we don't want to be the high school that had the 4-star kid who had to go to Jones Community College instead of signing with Auburn or Georgia or Florida, right?
Yep.
That's the change. Yeah.
Stephen,
and we're smarter. We're all just way more intelligent people.
There you go. Appreciate the time. Great stuff. Always enjoy catching up with you. Let's do it again soon.
Cole, you're a 31 in my book. Okay.
Well, thank you.
You're not a 19. You're a 30. You're a 31.
It was we had, you know what we did have was the sliding scale GPA to be able to utilize that to get in. So there you go. I made up for it.
What was your GPA? Wait, what was your GPA?
289 or something. I think I needed a 285 with an 18, something like that. I can't remember.
Okay, we're the exact opposite because I barely had a 2.0 GPA in high school, but I had a 31 on the ACT. I had a 31 on the ACT. Does that shock you?
No.
No.
The 2.0 GPA does.
Buddy, I got kicked out of Ole Miss twice, and now I'm on the radio talking like an authority. America is amazing.
There you go. Thank you, Stephen. Great stuff. Buddy. Stephen Godfrey joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Back with more Mac and Q right after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Pete Moss tweeting in reference to our Stephen Godfrey conversation, what that guy said about even a Tennessee-hating judge would rule in Tennessee favor. I'm not a judge, but I do hate Tennessee Orange. So we got that going for us.
Yeah.
Jolly tweets in, hey, Echo Kubik, listen to your conversation, the information you guys have put out as you try to break it down. Am I wrong to be at a point where I don't think college football at the upper Division I levels doesn't want regulation? They like this gnome's land of regulation. No, I think they would like to regulate themselves.
Right.
I think you're on the right path, Jolly, but maybe just a little bit off. I think the SEC and the Big Ten right now are Burger King.
Have their way.
Right away.
Right. Yeah.
They want their way right away.
Yeah.
They want it the way they want it. And when you yield that kind of power, when you bring those kind of eyeballs and you bring those kind of dollars to the table, it somewhat makes sense that you can at least ask for it or demand it or try to get it. But that's where I think we are, D, is that the people who are playing, the people who are yielding the biggest stick right now, they want it their way.
Right. Because they're only responsible for their respective conferences. Like they feel as though they have a plan in place because of the fact they bring in the most eyeballs, they bring in the most money, and it's like, well, if we have a plan that we think is effective for our conference moving forward, it's tough because when things start to get political, like you're already causing a snowball effect. Like it's only going to mount up because.
And kind of like Steven said, referencing the Aaron Carter deal, we are not the same anymore.
Right.
Like this is not like we got to start pretending we're the same.
Yeah.
And we've been saying that for a long time, but there are a lot of portions of college sports that want it all to be the same. And it just isn't. It's not. It's not even close. Look no further than the patch deal we were talking about yesterday. I mean, 2 schools are getting over $17 million a year to have a patch put on their jersey when a league took 12 for the entire league.
The entire league.
And that league is supposed to be pretty close to those other leagues. And I'm not saying they're not. Big 12 is not light years away from the Big 10 and the SEC. It's not on equal footing.
Correct.
But they're not on they're not on a different continent. But that is just a very minute example of we got to stop pretending all of it is the same.
Correct.
Because it's not. The Sun Belt and the Mountain West and the MAC are not playing the same game that the SEC and the Big Ten are playing. And I think the SEC and the Big Ten know that. I think the MAC knows that too, and the Sun Belt knows that too. But they also know that even if it's a minute bit of revenue that's coming their way with that affiliation, they're terrified of letting it go.
Correct.
Terrified of letting it go. And that's what's got to change one day. Some of those smaller leagues have got to say, we've got to go do our own thing.
Correct.
And quit relying on them to come up with the rules, come up with the ways to build revenue, come up with the sustainable postseason. Like, we've got to figure out how to do it on our own. And you've heard me say this 100 times, Damian. I don't hear anyone talking about that. I hear Derek Dooley talked about it for like a week, and then he went away. No one else is talking about what will we do, because this is coming. Get ready. It's coming. Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, whoever it's going to be, one day, they maybe come together. Maybe they're both retired for years, but the next person in line, somebody's going to come in there and say, you know what? We're out.
Yep. And think about, like, we're hearing Kirby Smart, like, he's a prominent head coach, national championship winning head coach, backing Greg Sankey of saying, like, we need to do something. Like, we have to do something because the model in which we're structuring and everything is going, it's not sustainable. Like, and like you, to your point, this ain't your same college football from 10 years ago. Hell, 5 years ago. Like, everything is progressing at a rapid rate. And I mean, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, it gets to a point where it's, man, we're at a different level when it comes, like, you can't, like, this Arian Carter situation is a perfect example. You cannot enforce something like this. Like, if we are going to say that you had this long, drawn-out investigation with Brendan Sorsby on gambling land. Like, we have evidence that he was doing it when he was a player on his team. And that didn't give him essentially the death penalty. You only suspended him for 2 games. And you ruled and it's – wait a minute. So you're telling me a guy that got injured during his pre-draft workouts and went to, got an agent, flew to a facility, paid the agent back to say, like, hey, you know what, didn't work out, paid the agent back, and that's worth a 2-game suspension.
Specifically when was going to enter draft, then not going to enter draft. When we allow basketball players to actually enter draft,
go
through draft process.
Get drafted.
I wasn't even going to go that far, but that's also fair. Go through the process of maybe being drafted, find out not going to be drafted where we want to, then exit draft process and come back and be a college player again. It's mind-boggling, the hamster wheel that we are running on sometimes in college sports. Literally sprinting to stay in the same place or maybe even go backwards. Like literally sprinting to potentially go backwards. Because like I told Godfrey a few minutes ago, this is something that 10, 15 years ago we heard about once a week. So-and-so had a rental car for a day. Like Bruce Pearl had players at his house for a barbecue. Like this is the lunacy that we used to talk about on a daily basis. Guy got a slice of pizza at a parlor and didn't pay for it because the guy knew who he was and let him go. Like the stupidity that ensued on an almost daily basis, at least weekly basis. This is what we were used to then. And to go back to it now when we have a high school running back allegedly getting a $1 million deal to go play somewhere. And I'm not saying 2 wrongs makes a right. I'm not saying that every rule should be swiped left upon and never paid attention to, but I was surprised that Godfrey pushed back on me saying he's not going to serve that suspension.
And really, me too.
Because I still don't.
And you brought up a great point. Like, what if he steps out there on the field?
What are you going to do?
What is the NCAA going to do? Make him forfeit the first 2 games?
Are you going to vacate the wins?
Yeah, right. After the fact.
And let's say Tennessee goes 10-2 with Aaron Carter playing every game, and he is deemed an ineligible player for any or all. And I ask this with true sincerity because I don't know the answer. Does the College Football Playoff Committee view them as vacated games? Because remember what people started to hypothesize about Sorsby. That they could utilize that against Texas Tech if they wanted to. Didn't know if they would. Didn't say definitively would. But we started to hear some of those rumblings of, well, the playoff committee will just say, no, we don't think he should be playing, so we're not putting him in. Undefeated, 1 loss, 2 loss, doesn't matter. We hypothesized that.
Right. That was
so
going to be a data point.
Why can I not hypothesize, does the College Football Playoff Committee that has no affiliation with the NCAA have to respect the fact that games are vacated because a certain player played? I don't know the answer to it, but I think I know the answer to it. And it's no.
No.
Because they could look at this and say, that's just as dumb as everyone else thinks, so we're putting them in.
Yep.
Simple as that. I don't think Danny White will pull this whole local judge stuff. I think he'll go way past that. I think he'll look at something like what we're talking about, and he'll sit there and say, now, hold on a second. What can they really do? What can they do? And that may be the answer.
Right.
To which Josh Heupel would say, cool, playing.
Right. That's a fair point because, again, like we've seen temporary injunctions. We've seen, like you said, we've seen it at the local level. We've seen these guys get, extra years of eligibility. They'll take it to court. Like it's almost like people will call the NCAA out on their bluff. Like, okay, like what are you going to do to us?
Yes.
What are you going to do? Who knows, man?
And I'm interested to see kind of where it goes because it feels ridiculous. Hastings is on the Higginbotham hotline, wants to chime in. Welcome into the show, Hastings.
Yeah, hey, kind of went a direction I was going to go with that, with the College Football Playoff Committee versus the NCAA. And I think the whole thing is kind of bogus anyways. NCAA is clearly flexing their muscles here, and they've done that in the past, but they pick and choose. I mean, with the whole Bediako situation, they were like, well, we're just judging them based on the games without Bediako, but Tennessee, they hammer them for a $400 flight. My question is, and I agree with you, I actually think the college football playoff, being its own entity, allows it to pick and choose who is in the playoff and who isn't in the playoff. And I think there's a little bit different situation than Sorsby, because you're on the other side of the spectrum. I mean, the kid paid back the money, did things in the past that would have lessened his suspension. I mean, they did by one game, but at the end of the day, he's still going to miss 2 games. And I'm not so sure. That Georgia Tech team is got a lot of grit. It's early in the season. Anything can happen, as we've come to discover through some of the upsets that you and I even talked about on the Feinbaum show that day with letdown games and everything. My question is will the NCAA – also, real quick, I think college football playoff – college football at some point, it almost needs to trend away from the NCAA and be its own entity. I know there's ramifications to that, and that's a whole different side of this. But so let's say that they play Aaron Carter and they don't suspend him at all. They already show to be pretty spiteful with Tennessee. What if they start taking it out on teams like the basketball team, the softball team, try and exclude them from tournaments, and it starts affecting their decision-making because they just keep going to the woodshed time after time after time, and at some point it's like, when are they going to try to utilize their power in their other sports in order to make up for the power lost in football? And so that's kind of where I'm at with that. We can go to the football playoff committee or whatever, but I'm just curious if they would have that notion, because where it's at right now, they hold no power. And so the power they have, they've clearly shown to flex. And so I'm just wondering if it'll ever leak over into other sports. Thanks, Cole. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a fair question. It's a fair thought. And we'll discuss it a little bit more on the other side next, right here on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. Had a great conversation about Indiana, Big Ten Media Days as well earlier in the show. James Larson joined us, talk Birmingham Stallions. 205-834-9450. You want to be a part of the show. Also talk Tennessee and this Aaron Carter situation. What's going to be next with that? Ross Dellinger coming up in the next hour of the show. It's 8:43, Friday, July 31st, right here on Jocks. John wants to chime in Birmingham. Welcome into the show, John.
Hey, how's it going today?
Great, thanks.
I was just calling in. I just want to ask this to make sure, see if I'm right about this. Like, so the college football playoff, NCAA doesn't make any money on that. Is that correct?
I think they may share in some of the revenue. They just don't have any ownership in it.
They don't have any ownership in it, right? They make most of their money off the NCAA tournament in basketball. Is that correct?
Majority, I would say yes.
So I mean, that's what I kind of feel like based off of that. I somewhat feel like NCAA cares more about that because that's where all their money is. Yes, I feel like college football, they want to break away from the NCAA, and I think the Big Ten and SEC are going to eventually do that and start their own league. And it's just a matter of time and getting the numbers right and figuring out, the legal side of it, how to go about it and start their own league. But I really think it's going to go that direction and bring some other teams from other conferences with them. And I do think it's going to end up being more like an NFL-shaped model. I mean, and I think it has to go there just to make the stability and the way the money's going. They're spending so much money each year on rosters. There's got to be, I think you got to smallen down the league and make it one super league, and then you have your UABs, your Conference USA, Sun Belts, WACs. They can still be part of the NCAA and their own identity, but I think you have to get some of the major brands, about 40 to 50 teams in their own league, to really make it sustainable with the way they're paying and doing these rosters now.
There's some truth to that. Yeah, $1.38 billion in total revenue for the NCAA. 948 from TV and marketing rights. That's going to be anchored by, like you said, the NCAA tournament. So,
right
there you go.
And I think when a lot of these TV deals come up, you'll have different people try to push for different, like a new way of doing it in college football. When a lot of these new deals come up for renegotiation, I mean, SEC. Now they got their own network. Big Ten has their own network. They could almost start their own conference. I'm sure a lot of TV deals would want to go that way. And a lot of teams want to join that conference, like the Miamis and Clemson, some of the bigger brands that have the money to keep up with the SEC and Big Ten.
Absolutely. Great call, John. Appreciate the time.
Thanks.
205-834-9450. You can call in, text in there to be a part of the show. You can also tweet in at Mac and Cube if you would like to be a part of the show there. Ross Dellinger coming up in next hour. Royal Payne tweeting in, can the NCAA still take away scholarships without worrying about court? And if so, why haven't they gone back to nuking programs in that way? I don't think the NCAA has a lot of power to attempt to nuke anybody in any way. And that's why we're where we are. This Wild West that we reference and talk about, they have trouble yielding any power right now. And that's a problem. It's a big problem. So where do we go from here? The Super Conference thing, that's one of the Protect College Sports Acts is going to take place and prevent that from happening. I don't think that's the reason that the Big Ten and the SEC are opposing it. We'll talk to Ross Dellinger about that in our next hour. I don't think that's the reason that they look at that and say, no, we have these grand plans to go to a Super Conference, therefore we can't do this. I don't think that's a real thing. But to think that that's not on the table and not being discussed, or a lot of people don't believe that there's reality to that, I also think that would be foolish of us to say and think. I think a lot of us believe that NFL model that we're staring down the barrel of is probably real. Don't want it. But let's go back to what we talked about with the lower levels of college football. Access. We hear a lot about access to the college football playoff. That annoys me when I hear it because I feel like access should be earned, not given. Specifically when I hear Tony Petitti talking about access, needing access to the playoff. Like, it's not an exit ramp. It's not a parking lot. It's not a sliding glass door. Like, it's a privilege to be in the playoff. Go earn your way in. And what it feels like is, well, we up the ante on how many teams we have, and we know at 4 or 12 it's going to be tough for us to get a lot of teams in just because we have so many teams in our league. Therefore, we need more teams in the playoff. Like the only viable argument that I have heard on playoff expansion is a comparison to pro sports and percentage of teams in postseasons compared to college football playoff. It's the only one. But how many college football fans, if you asked them walking down the street right now, would you say, don't you think that college football needs to be more like the NBA? How many are saying yes? You walk down the street right now and find a diehard Tennessee fan, diehard Mississippi State fan, diehard Bama fan, Auburn fan, and you said, hey, college football should be more like the NHL, right? I'll wait.
You need like touchdown horns?
I would love to have like our celebration songs to be somewhat like that, but we have our fight songs that we play. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
How many Georgia fans right now, if you're walking through Athens and you said, hey, don't we need to be more like the World Cup? I'm just asking the question. Because like I said, it is the only viable excuse or reasoning that I have heard as it pertains to playoff expansion. The only one is percentage of teams in pro sports, every pro sport that gets into the playoffs. Now, I'm not going to use the NFL because I actually think most fans will say, no, I don't want a more NFL-like model. I don't want that. I don't need that. It's not where I think we need to go. Don't do it. I actually believe that would be the real response. I just don't think if you were walking down the street right now and you said, hey, Troy fan, don't you think college football should be more like Major League Baseball? How many people are like, yes, I've been saying that for years. Where's our wild card? I don't think that that's a real thing. We'll discuss it more next on Jocks. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, 8:54, Friday, July 31st, right here on Jocks. 205-834-9450 if you want to get in. Quickly go to Golden Domer, who joins us on the Higginbotham hotline. Welcome in, Domer.
Top of the morning.
Morning.
Coach, I agree with you 100%. And this has been one of my biggest frustrations as a sports fan, primarily as a college sports fan, because I've never understood why people, we always say, well, that's what the NFL does. Oh, the NFL does it this way. Well, I want to scream from a mountain and say, college football is better. The system is better. The fans are better. The game day is better. Why are we diminishing our product to be more like the NFL when their system isn't even as good? I mean, the NFL, you got teams that are 500 and can still get in the playoffs. It's a known thing that you'll have players. This is just a known thing. Well, this is a contract year, so this guy's going to play harder. Oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's what we want college football to be. They're so worried about money. They play harder when they can make more money. It's a joke. And this whole – I've never understood why people think, well, the postseason sport, the sport that's built around postseason, and the regular season doesn't mean as much. That's what we want to go to. It's drove me crazy from the beginning. If you go back in the 90s and 2000s, college football, it was so much better than NFL. To be honest with you, when I was growing up, Cole, I don't know about you, but we didn't give a rip about the NFL half the time. I mean, all my friends and everywhere I came from, we cared about college football. College football was king. And the NFL was just, okay. If I had a player that I liked from my school, I'd watch it. But the product is not as good. The games are, quite frankly, boring half the times. And I don't care what anybody says about the ratings. The NFL, 75% of the games are boring. What do you say?
I'm not going to say boring because I love live tackle football. Like, I watch CFL games. In
comparison to college, though?
I think it depends on who I'm watching. Like, I've never watched an NFL game and said this is boring. That's just me. Like, I'm too interested in the intricacies and details of it. Now, are the atmospheres similar to college? No, I don't think so. But there are some college games that I could put on that don't come close to NFL games. Back with more.